Well, I can't say I didn't warn you. I straight up said in several other videos that I knew Riordan wasn't gonna learn from his goddamn mistakes, because he's too arrogant to learn from his mistakes. He thinks everything he did with the TV show has been a fucking masterpiece so far. So I knew something like this was bound to happen pretty soon, and hell, I basically called this 2 years ago, back when the rest of the casting was announced for Season 1. We've gotten the official casting for Talia, and it's just as bad as most of the other casting throughout this show. It's more race-swapped bullshit. And here's the funny thing. I don't know who this actress is, but from what I've heard from other people, the ones who pointed this out to me, because I didn't even know this happened, is that she's apparently not very good. She's not a very good actress, which means, once again, hired for DEI purposes. And what's funny about this, because nothing about the scenario is funny, it's fucking pathetic, but what's funny about it is that less than a week ago, I already talked about Matt Walsh's documentary exposing DEI experts, so we already know how stupid this shit is. And again, I've been straight up saying ever since Season 1 wrapped that Season 2 was going to be no better. He wasn't going to learn from it because, again, he thinks what he did was perfect, so it wasn't going to improve. It's going to be just as bad. And again, the casting is already showing it. The casting basically spelled doom for the show from day one, and it turns out the show was even worse than I could have imagined. And again, I don't think Season 2 is going to be any better. And I would be shocked if this show went past Season 2. If it went past, it seems like most people agree that Season 3 is the furthest this show will go. Like, at maximum. There's no way in hell this is getting 5 seasons. That seems to be the consensus, even from people who like the show, seem to acknowledge that the viewership drop basically means that this show is not going to make its 5-season run like Riordan wants. And if you look at the numbers for the show, they're even worse than Disney touted. Disney touted how big the show's viewership was. But you also got to take into account how much it dropped over the second half of the show. The video I did where I basically showed how bullshit those numbers were. And just the simple fact that eventually, once the hype died down, people started realizing how crappy this show was. That happens a lot nowadays, where something bad is hyped up, and then people eventually start figuring it out that, oh yeah, this is not very good. That kind of happened with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Everybody was claiming it was some big masterpiece when it came out, even though it was terrible. And within about 10 days of its release, people had already started realizing, oh wait, this is garbage. And that's what happened with this show. It just took a few weeks because all the critics who were saying it was such a faithful adaptation only saw the first 2 episodes, which were the least offensive of the episodes. The rest of the episodes were just like The Acolyte. The first 2 episodes were bad, but they were mostly harmless. They were just poorly written. And then it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And I have said that I think The Acolyte is worse than Percy Jackson. I will say that. But it's close, because The Acolyte basically set out to destroy the Star Wars franchise, but I will say the franchise was already kind of destroyed. This one's run by an egocentric dickhead who thinks he's some masterclass writer, when he hasn't even written a decent novel in over a decade. And again, and something else that's funny about this casting is that the actress looks younger than Walker Scobell. And I said that was something else that could spell doom for this series pretty quickly, is the gap between seasons. It allowed the kids who are playing the younger characters, they're gonna get too old. Honestly, I'm wondering if that wasn't one of the reasons why the studio pulled the plug on the 3rd film, because the second one still made a decent profit. Even it didn't do, again, I'm not gonna act like it was some big hit at the box office, but it still made a decent profit worldwide. So I'm wondering if the actors had started to get too old by the time the movie would probably have been set to release around 2016. It probably would have been the same 3-year gap. I'm wondering if they pulled the plug because by the time they were filming the 3rd film, Logan Lerman would have been about 23 years old, and Daddario would have been almost 30, I think Jackson had passed 30 by that point, so I'm wondering if it's because one of the reasons is because the actors were getting too old. And that's going to happen with this show, because I mentioned in my D23 video that the only interesting thing about it was how freaking old Scobell looked and sounded. He didn't look and sound like he was 13, he looked and sounded like he was around Logan Lerman's age when he shot the first movie, about 17. I know Scobell isn't quite that old, but he's starting to look and sound like it. And that's going to become a problem for this show. And then, especially since if it were to get 5 seasons, that he wanted to do Heroes of Olympus, where the characters stay 16, and Scobell would be like 30 by the time they ended that show, that would be a major problem. But other than that, yeah, this is just, it's more of Riordan's bullshit, and I don't know why people expected anything different. Apparently the guy they casted as Tyson looks semi-accurate, so, again, I have no idea. I haven't seen the actor, so I don't know how true this is, but this is just pathetic. I know he's doing it on purpose. It's almost like he's just trying to see how much garbage he can get away with before people 100% walk away. And again, the hype for season 1 is what really boosted its ratings for the first few episodes, and then it fell off a cliff. And then season 2, it's not going to have that momentum because people know it was garbage, and a lot of people who fell off of season 1 aren't going to stick around for season 2. And even if you do watch season 2, it's going to be just as bad as season 1. So that's all I got now. See you next time. Bye.